our Q&A panel tonight. I'd like to invite our dear friend Brian. We're um, going to invite our dear friend Will. Please come join us here too. And everyone in the audience are going to participate too. So we're going to make it free here. Try to make it as simple as possible. Don't worry. It's we don't do this panel very often, so it's important. Brian is a worker here, so some of you guys, just a quick introduction. I've been uh, participating in the Spiritism Center here, right? Yeah. So my friend, let's press here, it turns green. Okay. Better now? Oh, wow. I can't hear me. Yeah. So I joined the Spiritist Center in 2010, early 2010, and it's been a good journey. And I will start with me, since we're going to, I don't know, you can see here, we're going to talk about what we can get from Spiritism, and for me, um, it is a place, and I tell my wife this whole time, it's like I don't need to go to the therapist. I just go to the Spiritist Center, and I don't need to spend money with that. It is a place of good balancing. You know, we talk about mental health, but it's so complex. We are so complex as humans, and for me, it's my place of balance, and I just enjoy being here. How about you, my friend? What's
Well, yeah, my name is Will, and I've been coming here since 2017. And yeah, I think I have that on, I guess. In 2017, my wife and my wife is the one who introduced me to Spiritism. I was born and raised a Catholic and always believed in a Holy Spirit, and, as a guardian angel. That's what I always called my mentor, and not realizing it was my personal spirit, I guess. And so coming here, like Valdo says, each week you get so involved with life and everything, and then on Thursdays when we come here, uh, you know, on the way driving here, you get a little bit more relaxed. When you walk into this room, it's always has a good vibration going on. I feel it always, and so, I enjoy coming here. It is therapy. I was a very anxious person all my life. I just bouncing off the wall, and I think that through the Spiritism experience, I've learned to relax more, you know, be more confident in myself, uh, and I've always had a very bad problem with speaking in front of people like tonight. And I had a very terrible speech impediment when I was a kid. That kid made fun of me and everything. And so that was very difficult. So I was able to overcome that and, go through my life. I'm retired now. And so I really enjoy coming here and being, and I want to thank you for asking me to share this tonight, so even though I was a little anticipating, like, so anyway, I'm glad to be here.
thank you.
Hello. It's been, let's see, about a couple weeks since I was last up here for giving my own lecture,
Mhm.
but uh, I actually got involved with Spiritism all the way back in 2005 up in New Jersey. It was actually kind of strange. I was just telling my story right before I came out here. Um, I was actually on a deployment in 2004. I was supposed to go overseas to Bosnia, and I was doing my training for about a month, and I got let go. They says like, "Oh, you've got asthma. We don't want you anymore. We're kicking you out. We're gonna send you back." So I go back to Seattle, and I meet a Brazilian woman in my desk, and I'm like, who are you and everything else. But I got to find out, talk to her, and then as divine intervention would have it, we both get let go in May of that year. So like met in February, got to be friends. May, both of us get fired. She goes all the way back to New Jersey. I get a job one state over in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I was like, I get there, don't know anybody, but I remember she's in New Jersey. Call her up and says, yeah, come on over. We're enjoying a festival. But then got to know her. Then she started introducing me to the center. And then I got more and more involved. The biggest thing for me, I might be leading into the question here, was because I was raised Lutheran, Catholic light. And it was interesting to see, finally have
answers that I couldn't get at the church. Some deeper answers. It's like there's people out there that will do like
Star Wars, Star Trek, and everything else. They can go deep into like the backstory. I can do it with Lord of the Rings. So it's like I know the backstories. I know all this deep history and heritage and everything else. And it was funny because it's like I came here and I could go deep, but it's actually relevant because now you're talking the underpinnings, the foundations of our spirits, our spiritual beings, and even the true underpinnings for all the religions that are out there in the world that they all preach on. It's all based on everything that's brought into better light through Spiritism. So
Excellent. We like to we have these two blocks, so we before we move to the next block, we like to anybody, if you have any testimony, if you want to share too, we have Brian can go through you with this mic, and I actually throw a challenge. I like challenges, right? Because it's not me. If you can just if you're comfortable and if you're up to it, just complete the phrase, the blank. I blank Spiritism because blank. So you can say, I like Spiritism because it's a good thing. I don't like Spiritism because I'm afraid, whatever. So you fill the blank. I blank Spiritism because blank. Starting in here, maybe?
I like Spiritism.
And it doesn't need to be positive. It can be anything.
It is positive. It's on.
okay.
Because mainly what he said before, I just answer a lot of questions that regular other religions won't. They won't go deep in something and actually explain in a way that it combines science with religion. I don't know why it's like that. Is it better? Okay.
The video guy told us that mic gives interference.
Yeah. So in the way he explains, and I feel like other religions and some aspects, the way they explain things is like magic, and Spiritism is actually behind science behind it. So it makes more sense to me too.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hands?
It's like close to what she said, but I like Spiritism because it makes my life make sense. Like makes life make sense. It explains so much. So that's it.
I believe and I love it and Spiritism because how she said and brought a lot of sense and of life to me and explains and makes sense.
Thanks, Frank. I love Spiritism, but I find it extremely difficult because it makes me see how much I still have to grow. And I would love to say that after I became a spiritist, my life became easier, but it's the opposite. It became more difficult because I learned the meaning of things and the meaning of life and how much we have to grow and how much we have to do. So things that I did before that I wouldn't think twice about, now I have to think 1,000 times over and over and over, and actions that I used to take, I have to revisit. So it makes me see myself for who I am, but it makes me work hard for who I can be.
Excellent. Thank you, Rudy.
Excellent.
How about team? Do you want to?
No. Anyone else? Any more volunteers?
One of the things that we encourage, and that's what we do, we study. And you have questions, spiritisms get answers, but you have, the thing is that this guy who put everything together to make sense for us, he's a great common sense kind of person, Alan Kardec. And he has this spirits book that has 1,019 is question and answers. That's the beauty of it. That's why so it's like it's very interactive. And then there, if you want to then explore in a more deeper spiritual uh, dash religious, and you wanted to see the Christian side to it, because it is a Christian philosophy besides being a science. Then there's the Gospel according to Spiritism. There's the Mediums book if you wanted to explore the mediumistic, the phenomena that we are all mediums. And then there is Heaven and Hell, and the Genesis. That's the 5 books. Uh, I'd just like to share one of we're talking about the Spiritist book, and then I'll throw here in our panel here. We have a slide that this book, the Spiritist book, in the very, very end, there is a conclusion. And one of the great, we're talking about superior spirits that came in and they gave their contribution. Allan Kardec was just elaborating the questions. He was very inspired. He used a scientific method, but there are spirits like St. Augustine that, I know Rudy did too. I studied law, and he's very relevant, not just as a philosopher, but also as a spiritual person. And then he comes with very enlightening explanations. So I'm going to share with you here and with us here this slide on the conclusion about the doctrine. And it reads, "For a long time, humans have torn at one another and have anathematized, like kind of make war with one another, right? In the name of God, of peace and of mercy, offending God through such sacrilege. Spiritism is the bond that will someday unite them, for it will show them where the truth is and where the error lies. For some time to come, however, there will continue to be scribes and Pharisees who will deny it as they deny the Christ. Would you like to know which spirits influence the various sects that divide the world? Judge them by their deeds and by their principles. Good spirits have never instigated evil. They have never counseled or condemned murder and violence. They have never aroused party hatreds, the thirst for wealth, or the greed for earthly things. Only persons who are good, humane, and benevolent toward all are their favorites, as there are also Jesus' favorites, for they follow the path that leads to him. That was St. Augustine. So we can rejoin here. So we don't pretend to be Jesus-like because it's the most perfect spirit there was, but it is our motto. So at the end of the day, we wanted to grow in progress. So my take, volunteer here, my take that the doctrine it is, and that's the beauty, because it does open the door, like Rudy mentioned. Thank you for your comments, Rudy, because you look inside. It's like St. Augustine also in another question, he says, what's the secret for you to evolve, to get better? Know thyself. Go inside of yourself. Find where the evil resides inside, because the evil is not, we're looking for the evil outside. And the evil is within us. Our job is to work the path of transformation, recycle that. It's just some direct that negative force that exists inside of us, because we're made of positive and negatives. I'm not going to get to the science of that, but and for me that's great, that the doctrine and studying it, and the more you study, there's so much to it that it fulfills me.
Uh, Yeah, I think what has really helped me is I started reading all the books that they have here in the library. My wife pointed out the ones that she had read in Portuguese and which ones she thought would help me the most. And so I started with the Spirits book, and right now I'm reading The Heaven and Hell, which that's uh,
It's actually like interview with spirits, right?
really honestly. And
Did you start with the second part first, or did you go right, or did you do the
well,
first part?
I started all the way. I'm
Okay.
just about through it right now. Where they were just talking about suicides and everything. Some people really get lost in life and think that that's the way to answer their problems or something, is by committing suicide, and it's only going to add more to what the next life, and going back into the spirits world, they're going to have to deal with that for maybe centuries or something, or who knows. But what it has done for me, I think, is as you're reading, all of a sudden, there's things that I don't relate to at all. And then all of a sudden you have a paragraph that, boom, I mean, it hits home. And I mean, it's just like, wait a minute, they're writing about me here. And so I think that that's what I think has really helped me. And I think that I would recommend it to everyone here to start reading the books, because that's where all the knowledge is. It's all in there. Allan Kardec, he's just has written some really terrific things, and has really inspired me to want to come here every week and share the experience. And they have such great speakers here. I mean, this guy here, he just blows me away when he's up there, and Peter and so many, everyone. Hootie, I mean, this guy, he's new to it, but boy, you'd think that he's been a spiritist all of his life from the way he talks, and what you get from his lectures. And it's not really a lecture, though. I guess he's not lecturing you, he's enlightening, I think, is what is happening. There's just good vibrations in here all the time. And it's a thrill to come here. And I would recommend bringing your friends because I think that they would enjoy it. I think there's something here that would touch everyone, and not necessarily every lecture you come to. It might deal with something that you're dealing with in your life or something, but there's something in every one of them, that a sentence, just one thought, and it just comes in, and all of a sudden you just can relate to it and react to it. And I think that's what I get from this so far, is from reading of the books has really helped. That's what the message I guess I could send.
Little he knows that we're setting him up to be up here all the time.
Well, I've been invited, so I'll have to contemplate that.
How about you, Brett?
Just don't contemplate 70 times 7 days.
70 times 7, yeah, right.
So, I was just reflecting back on this, and it was funny because I was already mentioning that highlighted section. Spiritism is the bond that will someday unite them, for it will show them where the truth is and where the error lies. And I was suddenly reflecting back on that, and I was like, I said a little bit earlier about how Spiritism was the foundation. It's like, because I grew up as I studied civil engineering, so I do buildings, roads, bridges, everything like that. So, like for me, I like to have that foundation, that deep understanding. I want to make sure, like Alan Kardec was famous for saying, it's like that Spiritism should be a reasoned faith, and that it will stand up in any epoch in time. And that was very good for me because it was my biggest struggle with the Lutheran Church and because it's like they would touch on certain things, but they couldn't go deep. And I would try to push and push and push, and they wouldn't have an answer. And then when I came to Spiritism, this is like, well, we may not have the full answer, but we have a little bit more. And then in the fact that it was tying stuff in, because I like the things that like was mentioning about reading the Spirit's book, like whoa, get hits. For me, it was actually, again, being an engineer, I know physics and I know about the Newton's three laws, and one of them is for every action there's an equal opposite reaction. But then to get hit with that and saying it doesn't apply to just a ball pushing a ball or a car and car, that's your spirit to spirit. All of a sudden, that's a lot. That's an action reaction as well, and that blew my mind. And then when I sat down and started reading the books, all 5 of them, everything else, though they did encourage me when it came to Heaven and Hell, start with the second book first, because it makes you want to read the first part. But so I cracked open the Spirit's book, and I got to what's question number 1. What is God? Not who is God? What is God? And then in my translation it's the supreme intelligence, the first cause of all things. And then I sat there and I was like, intelligence. Everything we've learned and think about God. And even going back to even the Bible of Genesis, when he says, when God created humanity in his own image, put intelligence in front of there. It's like, we were created to be the supreme intelligence of this planet. Now it all makes sense. We don't need to be, it hasn't had to be a man, a woman, everything else. Or we could be a dolphin or monkey, whatever. We're the supreme intelligence. And when I put that together, it's like more and more of the Bible makes sense when you compare it to what the spirits gave Allan Kardec 160, 170 years ago. And like I remember a comment we were saying last week. It's like, I want to know if those books have been updated. Now that entire library out there might be it, but I would love to see someday all of a sudden new questions, new answers come down, and all of those 5 books are expanded upon. Says, hey, in the time that we've had these books, 150, 100 to almost 200 years, this you've learned more, and we can teach you more. The Spirit of Truth can now bring more truths and deepen everything we know even more. And I was like, that is the other thing too. It's like, there's a future, there's growth. It's not a Bible that last time it was edited was 2,000 years ago. It's something that's live, it's active, it's part of my day-to-day life.
That's when Chico Xavier, Xavier in English, Chico Xavier, one of the most known and prolific mediums that brought a lot of continuing truths and continue questions and answers. That it's like one of the books that I personally like that is similar to the Spirits book. It's called The Consoler by Emmanuel, which is psychographic by Chico Xavier. It has, I don't know how many hundreds of questions there is, but there are hundreds, and they are similar because they divide it in different parts. But that's great. Do you guys have any questions for us? Any of us here about this topic before we move to the other topic? anything you like to ask about Spiritism that we might try to we'll give it a shot? Anything? I'm not gonna volunteer you if you anything you're like to know why, what brought me here, what. So we're going to go to the second block now. And the second block, I think it hits a little more home because I think everybody has this. Before I let Will go back to Dilma over there, I'm going to start with him because the second part is like, it's about fear. And one of the things that I would like to kind of make a parallel of the first block and coming into the second block now, trying to be observe the time too, it's Spiritism bring us peace of mind that it calms our anxiety. We all suffer from anxiety. I guess it's part of our beings, right? Because we human beings, we have to be adaptable and things change every day. So it's but comes to a point that we get blocks. It becomes kind of hard to manage that. Fear, it's the foundation of anxiety. And by doing all of this 12 years that I've been here, I find myself less fearful, less anxious, and I even find myself in a position that sometimes I can even give an advice here and there that it works for me. So that's my take. We're gonna have Brian explore this in the second block. We're just gonna give it to him. Of course.
I want to go back to that text. If you are new to Spiritism, I know that there are a few people here that said that they're coming here for the first time, so I'm not sure if you're new to it. And sometimes we read that text and we think that it's a bar so high that we can never reach, right? Because it says there are good spirits have never done this, have never done that, have never, have never, have never. Then you think to yourself, well, I can never be a good spirit because I have done many of those things, right? So I want to, if you are not familiar with Spiritism, to let you know that it is really not like that, right? Because we believe that we are on a path to constant growth and development, right? And we believe that everybody, every spirit will one day get to be an enlightened spirit, a good spirit. So we are imperfect right now, and we do many of those things now, but there will come a day, there will come a time that we will no longer do those things, right? So the good spirits at that time, they didn't do those things anymore. But that doesn't mean that you can never be a good spirit because you have done those things. It's completely the opposite, right? That gives you more room to learn and to grow until we get to the point where we are enlightened enough to be considered a good spirit. But let me tell you guys, the walk is long.
To go along with that one, I was just, it was one of those funny things is like I keep reminding myself from the Bible when Jesus says, pick up my cross and follow me. So, and then with everything we were learning in Spiritism, we can literally follow him. It won't be this lifetime. It'll be maybe 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 years of reincarnations. But to think that from what Spiritism teaches, each one of us in this room will be like Jesus one day. Not today, but way down the road. But pick up your cross and follow him. So that was something that was great to me because not only did it, again, to go back with some things, it reestablished our divinity as well. We are children of God. We are sons and daughters of God. Even though Jesus is big brother, we're baby brothers and sisters right behind him, but we will grow and be just like them. And I know Al, every so often he has this lovely slide that has the line in the chart that has like imperfect, normal, and then good spirits. So it's and like it says, we're all over on that chart.
So that's why um, he explains the suffering. Spiritism explains the suffering, why we need to reincarnate, why sometimes we have like, this family have this beautiful child, and that child has a terminal disease, and that child, poor thing, only got to live 5 years, sometimes a little baby. And why people like in, I know you have in your family, but we have in my wife's family, um, people that are living 100 years, and somebody's living months, years, or somebody's so good and so much stuff bad happens to them. So there is the explanation. That's why we are um, coming back to recover and make amends to stuff that happens a lifetime ago when we were less intelligent in a spiritual sense, in our moral sense, and now we have learned that. We come and we sort of like purify those, and we move on. So the question actually is about fear. Going back to the fear, are you afraid of spirits? Still have that fear? Or if you don't like to talk about spirits, afraid of death, how do you face that?
Uh, I think when I was young, I was scared to death of death. Really, honestly, because there was um, being raised Catholic again. I mean, they hammered you all the time about you're going to hell if you don't do this, if you don't do that, if you don't do this right. And I was so afraid that as a young kid, all the things that you do, how mischievous you can be when you're a kid, and then, oh my God, I'm going to hell for this, and because they put fear into you for the fear of God, instead of the love of God, because that's what it is. It's a love for God, not the fear to fear Him, So it took me a long time, but now I have a very strong love for God, and I think that He loves me, because He has given me so many opportunities in life, because I've had so many near-death experiences. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I mean, I went through a lot while I was there. I was able to come home and keep my senses, and so many of my friends were not able to do it and not cope with it. But again, every time I was in any kind of a terrible situation, I put my hands in God, to get me through. And I've always done that. After experiencing Vietnam, nothing, I mean, nothing. I have fear of nothing anymore because nobody's shooting at me anymore, so I can, deal with anything that comes up, any kind of a situation in my work. I have to say that I was gifted uh, with the fact of being an artist and be able to do beautiful art pieces throughout my life. And I know it's a gift that was given to me. And it would be a shame, I felt at a very young age, that I would be throwing it away. It was given to me. It was handed to me. And so I have done everything I can. I put my first marriage to the side to go forward to develop, the art that was given to me, the ability, I should say, and I thank God for that. Um, I met Juma, and I was stumbling, believe me, and she started taking me to the Spirit Center in Brazil when we would go there. I didn't understand a word because of everything, because I still don't speak Portuguese after 20 years of marriage, and that's on me, believe me. But when I went, I mean, it was such a calming thing. They were all speaking Portuguese, and the speakers are up there, and everybody was, like today, people in the audience just speak up, and we're talking back and forth. And I don't know, it was just all very good vibrations.
So you
That
were
was
feeling
it.
from mostly
I
from
was
the
feeling-
energy,
I was from this energy that I could not see, but I could feel it,
right?
you know.
You
And
couldn't
that was-
understand the words, but you could
No,
understand
not,
the feelings.
I understand the feelings and the emotions that the people, the speakers had, the slide presentations that they would do or something or other, which gave you a visual, which I think that coming here, that's always, I think, a little bit better when we come here and there's a slide presentation along with it. It's a visual thing, so I think that helps
Right.
in a big way, for people. But the fear, no, I don't have any fear of any spirits. I welcome anything that there's that good guy on this shoulder and that bad guy on this shoulder. So, and this guy over here, he's always, whispering in your ear, but you let that just go right through you. And I always go to my my mentor, which was my guardian angel all my life. I think that angel, whoever that is, that spirit, has really helped me. He has whispered in my ear when there was times when I was in the deepest, darkest place in my life. And that has happened. I have to say that. I'm a pretty happy guy mostly, but there have been times when things got a little rough in my life. And I just sat back, closed my eyes, and said a prayer, not a prayer that was taught to me through religion or something or other, but a prayer asking, just talking, just like talking to God in my own language, in my own mind, and an answer would come to me. And it might be just the strangest way or something or other, but it has always helped me by not fearing my situation.
We are looking forward for your talk. You see the talent, you see the hidden jewels that we have here, and not only that he's going to help us to be in the hosting aspect here, but we're looking forward. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your testimony. We're gonna give it to Brian now. He's gonna lead us to the second block now. We're gonna talk about fear. And if you weren't here last Thursday, he put together a presentation that it talks about obsession, and which it talks about spirits, the good, the bad, the ugly, and make sense of all of this. So we're going to give it to him. See, he'll take it from it. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys. Thank you.
It was 2 weeks ago. I don't want to steal Adriana's thunder back there.
Oh, yes.
But so actually, can we turn off this light here? Thank you. So, and funny thing with the spirits book, something that was taught to me is when you go from 1 to 1019, the questions always build upon each other. So 941 is going to be a bit of an advanced topic, advanced discussion, but I'll go ahead and read this one out in full. The worry over death is highly vexing to many people. Why such worry if they have the whole future in front of them? It is wrong to have such apprehension, but what do you expect, since early on people have been persuaded that there is a hell and a heaven, and that they will most likely go to hell, because they have been taught that whatever belongs to the realm of nature is a mortal sin for the soul. Thus, when they grow up, and if they have any reason at all, they can no longer accept such a belief and become atheists or materialists. It is thus that they are led to believe that nothing exists beyond the present life. As for those who persist in their childhood belief, they fear the eternal fire that must burn them without destroying them. But death does not inspire any fear in the righteous, for faith gives them certainty about the future. Hope beckons them with a better life, and since they have practiced the law of charity, they have the assurance that in the world into which they enter, they will not find anyone into whose eyes they will dread to look. So, going back with the previous question with the fear, I'm sitting here reflecting back on thinking, like, did I have my own little fears? And it was kind of strange for me because I always grew up having my nighttime dreams. I was always at war. I was always fighting in combat and everything growing all the way up, at least until I got to the center, and then they disappeared. But the strangest thing of all was the fear. I had a fear one night. I'm in college, and out of the blue, I don't have a dream about war. It was the first time ever I dreamed about getting married, my own wedding, and having the peace, the bliss, the happiness that came from getting married. That actually terrified me so much. I bolted straight up. Unfortunately, unfortunately, there was another bunk ahead of me, so I banged my head real hard on the bunk above, woke them up, like, what the hell just happened? Pardon my language. So it was strange to have that, and then I was like, this is like, whenever then I kind of have I have a really quirky sense of humor. That's why my nickname is named after a certain bear Muppet. If anyone knows who we're referring to, that's my nickname. And because there was a time when they're saying, like, well, what do you expect to have happen when you're working on the construction site? And it says, oh, eventually one day I'll end up fitting into my hard hat and I'll look like Yosemite Sam, hard hat and boots flipping around. So and I'm like, that's not a good thing because that's a safety hazard. I was like, exactly. But that's my quirky sense of humor. But it was interesting because then, like I says, it kind of helped me get over, like, especially for me, fear of death and everything like this. But then once again, to go with this, we're starting to talk about spiritism, and that the fact that their life continues, and that reading, especially like when you start reading like Nassalar, even 2,000 years ago, everything else, you start reading about how you're helped. There's always spirits there to catch you when you disincarnate, when you die, when you move on to the next level. We don't usually say you die. We say disincarnate because we know that the spirit lives on. You exist. You'll come back, but you exist. Levia was asking me about a topic for a future day, and one of the ones I was thinking of tackling was reviewing the movie What Dreams May Come from a Spiritist point of view, because there's a lot of Spiritist principles in it. Basically, like I say, it does involve reincarnation, and it also comes in here with this heaven and hell analogy. Because if anyone's seen that movie, when he first passes over, where is he? He's in a painting. His whole world is paint. So as he's walking around, he's getting covered in the paint because he's literally walking in his painting. And it took him a while and says, hey, you're the only one that dreams or heaven is paint. You can make it whatever you want it to be. And then it became real. And that's exactly what this is going on here. And what we learned through Spiritism, and it was kind of going on with what Rudy was saying before, like with the accountability, and why it gets harder once you become a Spiritist, because now you know you're accountable for your actions. So what good you have done, that's your blessings. That's going to be what makes you have a more heavenly transition. You're going to be in a better place. You'll be in a position that you're able to help. You're awake, you're lucid, you don't feel the pains and sufferings because you haven't created that many errors and mistakes. But as we are all works in progress, or for me, being in construction, under construction, we're all under construction, things are going to be not so pretty, especially, like I said, using the construction term. Nobody likes a construction zone. Everyone hates it, but they love it once it's done. But while we're under construction, it's not a pretty sight. And that's what kind of was going on here. It's like the slips and falls we have, they come back. We kind of get that feeling of, oh man, I really should have done this, or because I did this, or I focused on this, I missed on all those other things. I wish I can remember one of the I think it was Memories of a Suicide. There was one of the people in the book, he committed suicide, and then he, as a spirit, he would come and see what happened to his daughter he left behind, and the fact that and see how her life has been horribly changed because she did not grow up with a father. He died when she was like, I think either 6 or 13, somewhere in that age. So she was still very, very young. And all of a sudden he's gone. And then her mother got distraught, fell into drugs and everything else. And this little girl basically had to start raising herself before she was a teenager. And this spirit would come in and see his daughter, because he loved his daughter dearly, but he was so disheartened to see that because he wasn't there to help nurture her and support her, he got to see that she went down a dark path. And so it's like, but this is where, again, going, like I said, like what Rudy was saying, is like the accountability, and that it's harder to be a spiritist because now you know that you're accountable for your actions. So it makes you sit and think and figure out how to try to be a better person. Like I says, I was living up in New York, New Jersey. Anyone else been there? Who loves driving in that area? Nobody. So, and it is its own art form, and the horn has its own special language. And of course, there's always the one finger salutes everywhere around. But and it was, as I was learning the doctrine, I sat there and I go back and said, like, okay, no longer, don't get angry when you get someone cuts you off or everything else. I had to start either making up excuses. They're late for work too. Their wife's in the hospital. Their child got sick, whatever. Go with God, be with them. So I started trying blessing people as they come, as a change. So that way I didn't join in with the horn brigade or add my salute to theirs and everything else. That was kind of the moment. And I was like, so it's like, that's where, and as I started coming up here and doing lectures, I was telling this to Levia, and even back at my old center, Love and Light, New Jersey, it was, and even at the symposiums, I came in and sat there and it's like, when I speak, the topics I'm speaking are also meant to be for me, because I know I'm a work in progress. I'm trying to change myself. So as I pick these topics and as I present these topics, they're to benefit me as well as to enlighten you, because these are things I know I need to work on. I know I'm a spirit that needs work, but I'm putting my time, investing it, doing my research, so that, and as I do the research and prepare for these lectures, I'm trying to improve myself and make myself a better person because of it. So, and so I don't usually pick topics that don't have a core meaning to me. So I know there's some people that will talk about Ramatis and sidereal engineers and some very wild and crazy things, but I was like, no, know thyself. It's got to come from in here. It's got to be something, at least for me, has to be a change that I can pull from in here. Study a piece of the book, learn it, but apply it to me. Now,
Maybe somebody got any questions?
is there any more questions before we do our vibrations?
It's questions and answers, so there is no bad questions. Where if you have a question about the fear of spirits, I don't need to mind this one.
Okay. Well, I may repeat it because I don't know if this one's being recorded or not.
It's curious about fear, because when you talk about spirits, everybody's shaking. So when you say you believe in spiritism, people are like, so you see something around? No, you can feel it, because that's not mandatory.
Right. No.
And actually, if you compare that to, let's take Catholicism as an example, you actually pick that religion because you are afraid of not going to heaven if you die.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the argument they use to bring you in.
Yeah.
And when it comes to spiritism, they actually say, well, this is just part of the road. because your soul is eternal. So you don't need to be afraid of dying.
Mm-mm.
That's the second level. So who knows?
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why people get to know it and actually choose to be in is totally different from any other religion you see out there. I'm not saying no other religion does the same or has the same values, but this is the one that we are talking about. So when you look for a religion, most of the times you either come because you're in pain or because you're in love and you understand that this is something that's going to be good for you,
Mm-hmm.
not only when you're alive, but you take that knowledge on and on.
Yeah.
So in a way, not a lot of people feel comfortable to tell others what you believe and where you go. But the thing is, more and more that people get to know about spiritism, more they get attached to it, and more people come in. So I was in Miami for 6 years, and it's the same thing. I mean, whenever it's in Portuguese, you see more people. When it's in English, you don't see a lot of people.
Mm-mm.
So it's a beginning. But I think Valdo said that once, every spiritual center around the globe, where you go, there's always a Brazilian running. So
The torches are slowly being passed.
yes,
I know my old center, it did pass to an American. So we have at least one center
that's great.
that is now being, the president is now an American. And it's great to hear that. I remember, like I said, shortly after I got involved with Spiritism, they were sitting there saying like, there's a bunch of they says like they're activating, the spirits are starting to activate the torch bearers. And it's like, these are the ones that are and they're hoping I'm one of them. I won't say I am. That to me, that inflates my ego, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep the humility on there. But it was one of those things where, because it is, I think it was On the Way to the Light has it where they were saying America was meant to be the brain. We think everything through rationally, and the Brazilians are the heart. They feel it. And this is like right now, the heart can feel it. Brazil's got it, but the head hasn't kicked in yet. And we need to start bridging that link of having that those feelings, those emotions, those passions that all these Brazilians have for Spiritism, and link it with the rational, the thought-provoking parts of Spiritism. And that's where, and like I said, I try to do that where it's like, I try to link in the Spiritist principles into my day-to-day life. Like I mentioned it with the Newton's law, action and reaction. When you start thinking about, like, I can push this chair and it moves, but if I push a person or if I hurt a spirit, there's a reaction to me. There's negativity to me. The fact that just like the more good you do, the more good that comes back. So it's like that's when I started reading these principles and going through and studying the 5 books of doctrine, but then going on the other books, the Soares series for sure, and especially the Emmanuel series, 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, Paul and Stephen, Renunciation. They are all phenomenal books that as you read them, Paul and Stephen was one that also shook me up because it like, and it's funny because I even remember reading it in the very beginning. It was one of the ones that says like, we don't know if this is true or not, but the way it was written, it looks like the spirits were there. Like it's literally interviewing Stephen, you're interviewing Paul, and they're describing everything. You're seeing Paul's road to Damascus, what he felt like. You can tell it's Stephen, everything else. And the fact that Stephen was going to be his brother-in-law when you read that book, that the woman that Paul was going to marry was Stephen's sister. And I mean, again, it was a great thing to do, but we need to wrap it up.